So what are productized services? You might already know that if you're here, or at least you have an idea of it. But before I explain what they are, like I said during the introduction, let's try to understand how agencies and most freelancers are still working today. So for that, I got a story to tell, and a story that actually happened to my little sister this summer. My sister, she is a designer and photographer. She loves working with film camera and building physical photo books. She was lucky enough to meet a photographer who spent the last 2 years in Africa, working on a book series he wanted to edit and publish in a book. So the problem is that he had no idea to do that. He knew how to take beautiful pictures, but not really how to lay them in a book and tell a compelling story. So luckily, he had met my sister before and quickly asked if she could freelance and help him transform this project into a reality. So my sister, freshly graduated, was ecstatic. She had her first customer, which is a huge leap in their life. So both my sisters and him quickly started to work together. She agreed to complete the work for 300 euros one-time fee. Yes, 300 euros. So she received half of the money up front, and the rest was expected to be received at delivery, which is pretty standard for freelancing. She was happy. 300 euros represents a lot to her, and this is totally okay. So she started to work on the book straight away and gave everything on this project. She worked a lot on it. Late nights, a lot of back and forth, a lot of revisions, but ultimately the client was happy and the book was finally done. So fast forward to October, she invited me to Paris for the book release. And really, it was amazing. Hard work paid off. This was a success, and she was really happy with the process. So now you must be asking yourself, Anthony, why the hell are you talking about your life? We don't care. Get back to productized services. But trust me, if I tell you this story, this is because how well it represents the classic model of agencies and freelancers are still in today. Okay, let's break this down. A client comes with a project in mind, with a predefined scope. You start to think, you do some math. This specific piece of work equals this specific amount of time equals this amount of money. You give a price to your customer for the whole project upfront. But the truth is, and you know this is the truth, most of the time it will be off, and that's normal. So for my sister, something she thought would have taken her about a month instead took her 4 months. This happens all the time to agencies of every size. What's the difference with productized services? So productized services is just a fancy way of describing how you can package your service into a very detailed way and selling it as a product, as if you were the product. So they are notorious for subscription packages with a very narrow scope and very small delivery increments. Let's take the example of Design Joy. It's one of the most famous design agency. Brett, the founder, bills between 5 to 8K a month for the design subscription. You can get access to between 1 or 2 tasks being worked at once, and I think the delivery time is about 2 to 3 days. So you get unlimited tasks during the month, but only 1 to 2 tasks maximum is worked at once in the pipeline. No meetings, no call. And lastly, the customer can pause the subscription anytime and resume it when they need it. This specific point that changes everything. By controlling the delivery output, managing the customer expectation, this is how Brett can actually stack a lot of customers and make a lot of money every month being a solopreneur. Because yes, he has no team, he is solo. So back to my sister's stories. What if she would have listened to her brother and followed the productized model instead? Okay, let's think about it. She could have set her price to something very reasonable, between 200 to 400 euros a month with a very limited scope. Okay, let's think about it. Maybe the first delivery after 1 week. 1 week to work on the book, then an update every 2 to 3 days. Unlimited revisions until the book is completed, and communication via WhatsApp or maybe comments in the design tool. This would have changed everything for her, because first, she would have earned about 5 times more, which is really good. And she would have also been paid completely upfront for her work, which limits risk, obviously. we should never forget that most freelancers and agencies end up working for free because their customer never pay or they pay late, and so on and so forth. More importantly, she would have never worked for free, and no one should ever work for free. So productized service, in other words, are a model which is safer and maybe fair for the product provider and more predictable for the customer because they know how much they will pay each month. So this is the end of this module. So what did we learn then? So selling time for money doesn't scale. It just simply doesn't scale. We should be rewarded for skills and not for the time we spent on the task. If I'm quicker than you with the same skill, I should be paid the same. The same service package differently can be sold for more. And productized services are fair for the service provider and for the customer. And they often resolve around the subscription, which is normal for productized services. And customers can pause and resume their subscription, adding a layer of safety and fairness for the customer. Okay, so this is the end for this module. What did we learn then? So we learned that selling time for money never scales. It just simply doesn't scale. We should always be rewarded for our skills, not for the time we spent working on the task. So if I have the same skill than you and I do the same task in 1 hour, I should be paid the same. And the same service package differently can be sold for more, for sure. Productized services are fair for the service provider and the customer, and they often resolve around the subscription. And the last point, which is really one of the most important, the subscription can be paused and resumed, adding a layer of safety and fairness to the customer. Okay, that's it.